right, I'm about to get it up on the screen. Am I there? All right. John chapter 13, we'll finish that tonight and go into chapter 14. Hopefully. And we're around verse 33 or so in John chapter 13. He's told the disciples that bad times are coming, that he's going to be going away, and that they can't come where he is, and that there's going to be hard times, difficult situations facing them when he leaves. And so he's been delivering some bad news for them that is going to be tough for them to adjust to. But he says in verse 33, "Little children, yet a little while I am with you. Ye shall seek me, and as I said unto the Jews, whither I go, you cannot come. So now I say to you." So it won't be long before this will take place. It'll be a little while. This is a phrase that Jesus uses during the course of his ministry on several occasions, particularly recorded by John. In the 12th chapter, he spoke about, verse 35, about a little while, when he said, "Yet a little while is the light with you." A little while isn't a long while. A little while isn't 1,000 years. It's not 10 years. A little while is not a year. A little while is just, pretty quickly, coming up pretty quickly. "Walk while you have light, lest the darkness come upon you. For he that walketh in darkness knoweth not whither he goeth." But so Jesus would not be with them very much longer, is what he was saying in that chapter. In the 14th chapter, he will say, "And now I have told you before it comes to pass." No, that's not the chapter verse I'm looking for. It's chapter verse 19. Must have my glasses on crooked. "Yet a little while, and the world seeth me no more." Not a long while, but a little while. "But ye see me, because I live, you shall also live." So it's not going to be long until we'll be leaving this world and leaving them behind, obviously. They're getting that information quite accurately. In the 16th chapter, verse 16, "A little while, and ye shall not see me, and again a little while, and ye shall see me, because I go to the Father." Never defines what this little while is. He just kind of leaves it open-ended like that, but all of them get the same impression that this is happening pretty soon. So some of his disciples said among themselves, verse 17, "What is this that he saith unto us, a little while, and you shall not see me, and a little while, and you shall see me, and because I go to the Father?" They said, therefore, because they wondered about, what is this that he saith, a little while? We cannot tell what he saith. They're not getting the gist of what he's trying to teach them or help them to be aware of. So Jesus knew that they were desiring to ask him. "So do you inquire among yourselves of that I said, a little while, and you shall not see me? Again, a little while, and you shall see me. Verily, verily, I say unto you, that you shall weep and lament. But the world shall rejoice." So world's happy, but you're not. Yes?
Of the 8 verses that actually him saying that or referring to that, it's all in John.
I hadn't noticed that particularly. All in John. John liked that phrase then, didn't he? Jesus used it a lot, but John saw to it that having read Matthew, Mark, and Luke's Gospels, he said, "I'm going to put that in there." They didn't put it in there. "You will weep and lament, but the world will rejoice. You shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow shall be turned into joy." So it's a little while that they'll have to put up with this and endure this, but not a long while. "A woman, when she is in travail, has sorrow, because her hour is come. But as soon as she is delivered of the child, she remembereth no more the anguish for joy that a man is born into the world. And ye now, therefore, have sorrow." And they do. They're worried about the things that Jesus is saying and worried from their own perspective because they don't know how this is going to turn out, exactly how it's going to be. "Verily, verily, I say unto you, whatsoever you shall ask the Father in my name, he will give it." And so he speaks some other words of comfort to them that will help them in dealing with this period of time where they're going to be upset and unhappy and worried about what's coming in the future and all of that. But it'll just be a little while, because when the after this difficult time of the upper room conversations and things that Jesus has said, after the visit into the Garden of Gethsemane and the events that occurred there with Jesus' arrest, after the trial, if you want to call it that, being before Caiaphas and being before Annas and then being before Herod or Pilate, and then being before Herod and being back before Pilate again, after all of that, and that's occurring just in a matter of a few hours, that will last. They will put him on the cross. They'll put him in the tomb, and 3 days after he enters the tomb, he will rise from the dead, and everything changes. So all of this other stuff that they've been worrying about, not knowing how they're going to be able to cope with it, that all changes when that tomb is empty and the results that come after that. Yes?
Was it 4 days, a little while came to?
It would have been, this was right before Passover, and he was on the cross during Passover. So yeah, if he was raised from the dead on Sunday evening, then yeah, 4 or 5 days.
He was raised Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, you're right. Sunday morning rather than Sunday evening. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's not long. So Jesus was correct in using that phrase. It'd just be a little while that they would be struggling with all of this. They wouldn't have all the answers immediately. On the time of his resurrection, they still had lots of questions in their mind, and they asked him questions when he was with them after his resurrection. It didn't all become readily apparent until they saw him in his ascension there from the Mount of Olives and listened to the angel who asked them, why you stand gazing so steadfastly up into heaven. The same Jesus which you have seen go into heaven is going to come back as you have seen him go. And he told them to go in Jerusalem. You just wait there, guys. Wait there. And the time will come when the Holy Spirit will come and things will be straightened out and you'll have the answers that you're still seeking from all of that. That would be on Pentecost Day, which is 50 days after the Passover. So they spent that time, which would be, 40 some odd days, still with lots of questions about how all this is going to play out. They saw Jesus ascend to the Father, and then they're just hanging around waiting. Yes, Lord.
Well, if I remember right, they waited behind locked doors.
Yes, they did wait behind locked doors, didn't they? They still hadn't got it figured out that the power that was evident in Jesus' resurrection was going to be sufficient to keep them safe. So they knew that if they would put Jesus to death, if they could get their hands on the apostles, they would probably do the same with them. And so they were fearful of all that, and they didn't know exactly how they should spend this time until the Holy Spirit would come, the Comforter that Jesus said, I'll be sending him to you guys. He's a Comforter. You just stay in Jerusalem until he gets there. Did they stay in Jerusalem for all of that time? Nope.
Not all of them, because two of them, what was it? It was not burning on the started to see them.
Do what now?
The two that left, they,
Oh, the two on the road to Emmaus?
yeah,
Jesus appeared to them on their journey to the road to Emmaus. Where did you find Peter and James and John later on? Wasn't in Jerusalem. What were they doing? Peter had said, Peter had said, I'm tired of this waiting around. Let's get out and do something. And so they went back to Sea of Galilee and took up some fishing again like they had always been doing. And very familiar with that routine. And so they were getting back into that routine of work. And maybe they needed the money. I don't know. But Jesus, of course, encountered them there and had the conversations that John will include in his gospel toward the end of the gospel. So it wasn't going to be all that long, but when we're troubled and worried about stuff, a little while can seem like a long while if we just don't know what is going on. So he had said to them, let me get back to where we really were, that it'll be a little while that this goes on. So he said, verse 33, little children, just a little while I am with you. And he referenced them that way occasionally, talking to the apostles as one would communicate with a little child. We've all had little children, grandchildren, been around little kids, and know how it is that when you're around little kids, what you have to do, and you have to answer a lot of questions that to you might seem foolish, but to them it's stuff that they don't understand. And when you tell them one question or answer one question, they'll ask the question that they ask the most, and that's why. And next to why is how. And they want to know stuff. And they're very persistent in wanting to know stuff, but you have to address them on the level of their ability to understand. And so you talk to little children differently than you talk to an old adult that's been around, that's had all these experiences, because they've not had all those experiences. There's stuff they do not know. And so Jesus is dealing with these disciples, with the apostles, as you would deal with a little child. Their understanding is limited. You have to put things at the level of their ability to understand. And so that's what he did constantly during his ministry. He taught them by story, in parable form. There was a lot of things, Jesus said, that he would like to say to them. The Hebrew writer said the same thing to the Christians of his generation, that had a lot of things that he would like to say and teach them about, but they couldn't bear them then. They weren't mature enough in the faith in order to be able to hear and to understand what he was trying to communicate to them. So these are little children, and you'll seek me. That's what children do. They seek their parent. If they can't find their parent, or the one they've been looking to all this time, then they're going to be looking for that parent. Where's mama and where's daddy? And they need to be here to help and to guide me through this all this stuff. Seeking that parent, not knowing what to do, unable to handle what is facing them, and they're impatient. Yes, Lord.
In the comment, I don't understand what that's saying.
Where? Which part?
In the comment 13:1, it's on the same page.
Before the feast of the Passover?
Yeah, it says,
Instituted as a memorial for deliverance of that part.
And was an imminent type of Christ. What's that referring to? It's right after Egypt.
Oh, yeah, okay. As a memorial of the deliverance of the children of Israel out of Egypt, and was an imminent type of Christ, and his Passover was what Christ had greatly desired. Well, the things that occurred when they delivered them out of Egypt, the first Passover, where they took the blood and spread it on the doorposts and the lintels of the doors, and the death angel came and took the lives of the oldest child of the Egyptians. None of the children of Israel died, because they were protected under the blood. And all of that was, as he's saying here, imminent, which means it could have happened any time, very close at hand, was an imminent type of Christ. So this was portraying what Christ would do when he would come. But it was a long time coming.
Saved by the blood.
Yeah, saved by the blood.
Okay.
Yeah. We pass under the blood, and we pass under the protection of God, knowing the forgiveness of God.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I can't remember what commentary this is from. I don't remember which one I've got up there right now. Let me see. John Gill. This is the Gill's commentary that's up there now. Okay. So as I said, you'll seek me, and where I am, you cannot come. Or I said that to the Jews first, and now he's saying that to his apostles as well, that they wouldn't be able to come. They'd come eventually. The Jewish nation would not come. Didn't during the days of the apostles, hasn't since those days, is not today, has not come to Jesus. Verse 34. So he says this to them. Here's a new commandment. He's given them a lot of commandments to chew on during the last 3 years of the ministry. If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily, as Luke's account, and follow me. So, a commandment. Self-denial. Bearing the cross. Following after. Here's another. This is a new one. That you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another. And it's not new in the sense of not ever having been commanded anywhere before. We understand that this is a commandment tying back to predating even the Old Testament law, the Old Testament covenant. It was certainly in the Ten Commandments that God gave to the children of Israel at Sinai. In Leviticus 19:18, love is clear. Love of the brotherhood, love of the brethren is clearly commanded. But it's a new one, Jesus says. And new in what sense? Since it's been around for a long time. What sense new? We all know in what sense it's new. By this qualification that he put on there. That you love one another as, he said, in this manner, to this extent, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. And as Jesus had loved them, how did Jesus love them? Well, he loved them more than he loved his own life. He loved them even to the point of death, to suffer all that he suffered during the ministry and during the cross and all of that. He loved them that much. This commandment of love, and y'all understand this, you've read 1 Corinthians 13 before, where Paul extolled the virtues of love and defined it for us to help us see what that looked like when you put it in flesh and bones. And so he gave us all those great attributes of love that are so much valued and appreciated by anybody that reads them. So this is, when they came to Jesus, the leadership did, with the question about the law and about the commandments in the law and about which were the two greatest commandments of the law, or which was the greatest. They asked for the greatest. And Jesus told them, it's love. To love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second was like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. On those two commandments hang, Jesus said, all of the law and all of the prophets. Everything that the law was intended to teach is wrapped up in those two commandments. Everything that the prophets spoke about, every new truth that they revealed in their prophecy, centered around those two commandments, loving God supremely and loving our neighbor as myself. There's faith, there's hope, and there's love, Paul said in 1 Corinthians 13. The greatest of those three is not faith, it is not hope, it is love. Nothing greater than that. It's the greatest commandment in the law, and it's the greatest commandment when you consider other wonderful things that are found in the law. It's greater even than all of those. 1 John, let me get there, 4 and verse 20. If a man say, I love God, this is the same John, of course, that's written the gospel we're studying now. If a man say, I love God and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother whom he hath seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen? Wisdom in that statement, isn't it? And this commandment have we from him, that he who loveth God love his brother also. I can speak about loving God while not loving a brother, but if I don't love the brother, then I don't love God. The Scripture is very clear on that. We can't bear hatred for a brother. If hatred is there rather than love being there, then we've committed murder. Maybe not the actual physical form, but we have murdered him within our heart. So the instruction is fairly clear on all of those things. Let me get back where we were. So this is the new commandment that has been given by the Lord. And it's by this that he says in verse 35 that all men shall know that you are my disciples, if you have love one to another. Why not something else? Why this and not something? Self-denial is a pretty big thing. Why not by your self-denial? All men will know that you're my disciples. Sacrifice is a pretty big thing. But that's not what shows that to all men that we are his disciples. Stoicism, bearing things bravely, is a great thing. Moral purity is a great thing. There's a lot of great things that are found within the Scripture that are bound upon us. But the greatest thing that is bound upon us is this thing of love. Greater than our faith, greater than our hope, greater than all of those things. So by this shall all men know. So when you find a church that's at war with itself, Christians that are at war with each other, and the bitterness is there, and you can see it's there, it's obvious to everyone that there's a failure there. Sat down with two ladies that were within a same family that were really having trouble with each other, Christian ladies, and couldn't speak peaceably to one another, or wouldn't, had been writing ugly things on Facebook, stuff like that. You know how folks are that use that so much. And were actively seeking to divide the entire family. If you're with her, then you're not with me. And so draw those lines and do those kinds of things, and it's not right. So when I met with them, they finally had all the fussing they could stand and said, would you come and straighten this out for us? And I said, no, I can't straighten anything out for either one of y'all. But you can straighten it out if you want to. I'll be glad to come and listen and talk to you about it some. So I got them together and we sat down to talk, and I said, okay, here's ground rules. Because such thing happened was they started interrupting each other. You know, I said to this, you're going to talk. She's not going to say a word. You're going to talk. And so I let her get started talking. And what she wanted to do was to go back and rehash every bad thing that this person had said. She said, let me just tell you what she said about me and who she said it to and how often she said it. And I said, ground rule number 2. I don't want you to say anything negative about the other person. I don't want to hear it. I said, we're here because you've done all that kind of stuff. We're not here to justify the doing of it. So I said, no, we're not going to listen to all of that. She didn't have anything else to say. So I turned to the other lady and said, okay, you talk to me. Whatever you want to tell me, tell me. And she said, I don't really think I can tell you anything. Because all they wanted to do was just bring it up and argue and fuss again. I said, if you want to solve the problem, we can solve the problem. And it's not complicated. I said to this person, are you willing to forgive her of all this meanness and orneriness and the things that she said? I don't know. She said a lot of stuff. She hurt me in a lot of ways. I said, are you willing to forgive her? I don't know that I can forgive the way they've acted and the things they've done and the hurt they've done to our family. And I said, well, if you're not willing to forgive, will you ever be forgiven? And these are Christian people I'm talking to. And they said, well, I think. Well, you're thinking wrong. If you won't forgive, you won't be forgiven. So we had to look up a passage or two, and I said, are you willing to let that bad relationship with this person land you in hell? Is it worth that for you to do that, to carry on this war within this family? Or are you willing to work for peace and harmony and let that be swallowed up in forgiveness and let all of this stuff go? And so they had to chew on that for a while. And I said, if you are forgiving each other, if you're willing to do that, you understand that this can never be brought up again. Never. You can't talk to somebody else in the family about how it used to be or how it was. You can't go and share this with some other best friend that you got. You can't post something on Facebook about any of this stuff. You never bring this up again. If you're forgiving it, if you bring it up again, it's because you haven't forgiven it. So you got to let go of it. Are you willing to let go of it? And they finally said, I can let go of it. And so, kind of ended it that way. We prayed about forgiveness and stuff, and went back up. The rest of the family was we were downstairs, was up in the auditorium, just sitting and waiting to see whether they need to call EMTs to clean up the blood or not. But anyway, so we met with all the family, and I said, here's what they've decided. Listen to them, let them tell you. And so I said, tell the family what you've decided. And she said, we have decided that we are going to forgive each other, and we will never bring it up again. I asked the other lady, what have you decided? That's what we've decided, to forgive each other, and we will never bring it up again. So I said to the rest of the family, now, did you hear them say that? Yes, we did. And so now I'm talking to the whole family. Are you willing to forgive these two ladies for the hurt that they've caused and never bring it up again? We had to talk about that a while because they had hurt people. And they finally said, yeah, we're willing to do that. I said, okay, then you will never bring that up to these two ladies again. And say, remember when y'all had that big falling? You're not ever going to say anything like that. This is done and over with and gone. And it must have worked. I mean, the family came back together. I never heard anything more about anything. Probably they didn't want to talk to me anymore. But anyway, that's the key to everything in our relationship within the church. Because we're people, we get our feelings hurt. Somebody says something that hurts our feelings. Well, what are you going to do about that? You going to let them talk to you about that or say those kind of things about you? You need to get over it. Get this stopped. And we need to let it go. If you just can't let it go, then you need to go with the person. Jesus said, not to anybody else. You go to the person and you say to the person, you hurt me. You may not know how much you've hurt me, but you've hurt my feelings, and I think we need to straighten this out and get back on a good keel, even keel with each other, and y'all will work it out together. If that doesn't work, well, bring an elder with you or a couple of older sisters and let them meet with you and talk about it there. But that's not how humankind works. We love to talk about stuff like that to everybody except the person who we should be talking to. So we'll talk to it about it to everybody else. I had a gentleman come here once that saw me at church, or we were here at church, obviously. And he said, I think you need to know what's going on. I don't ever like to hear those words. Because I know what I'm about to hear isn't something I want to hear. And so he mentioned somebody's name and said, let me tell you what happened this last weekend. And it's not right. And he's going to be waiting on table this morning. I said, oh, okay. And he said, y'all need to do something about this. I said, well, what have you done about it? He said, well, I'm talking to you. I said, wrong answer. So I asked him, what did Jesus say to do about that? When a brother has wronged you or you know of a wrong that a brother has committed, what did he say to do? And the guy knew. I mean, he's had a lot of biblical knowledge. He said, well, go to that brother, you and him, and you work that out with them. I said, have you done that? Have you gone to this brother who's going to be serving communion this morning that you know has acted inappropriately, and have you discussed this with him? No, I'm talking to you about it. You're not talking to me about it because I'm not going to listen. You're going to go to him. And after you've gone to him, if it doesn't work out, come back and see me. I never heard anything more. I don't know if you went to him or not.
He didn't want to talk to you either, did he?
No. But, the solution to all of these things that we get caught up with in church is here in the Scripture. And it's in the teaching that Jesus has given us. And our willingness to simply incorporate that and put that into practice. The reason it's so uncommon that we handle things this way is that we keep Bible things in a Bible setting. I mean, that's for here in church where we'll talk about that stuff, but it's not out there in life where we're living life every day. But that's exactly what it's for. It's out there in life where we're living it every day. Love makes a difference, has always made the difference. And it's by this, he says in verse 35, that all men shall know that ye are my disciples, if you have love one to another. Okay, anything through verse 35 before we head to verse 36? Here's what Peter said. Lord, whither goest thou? Jesus answered him, whither I go, you know. No, I'm sorry, I was thinking ahead. Wasn't looking at the book. That's the scripture. Whither I go, thou canst not follow me now, but thou shalt follow me afterwards. So, okay. Later on, he'll tell Philip whither I go, you know, and the way you know. But that's not what he said to Peter right now. He's just saying to Peter, listen, you can't follow me. Even if I tell you where I'm going, you can't follow me. So there's not any point in my telling you that. You can't follow me now, which means that sometime later you can follow me. But thou shalt follow me afterwards. And he would. Peter it didn't ring a bell with Peter. Peter thought, yeah, I can go wherever you go. For the last 3 years, that's exactly what he's been doing, going everywhere Jesus goes. If he goes to Galilee, I can go there. If he goes to Capernaum, I can go there. You know, if he goes to Jerusalem, I can go there. Peter said unto him, Lord, verse 37, why cannot I follow thee now? I will lay down my life for thy sake. So he's thinking a little bit deeper, and maybe Jesus isn't talking about a geographical location, a change of geographical location, but he's talking about something else, going to his death, as he's already mentioned. And Peter says, I can follow you even in death. I'll lay down my life for your sake. And Jesus said this. Just knocked the wind right out of Peter's sails. Struggled to believe what Jesus was telling. Wilt thou lay down thy life for my sake? Jesus just asked him the question. You said that you would. Are you willing to do that? Verily, verily, I say unto thee, the cock shall not crow until thou hast denied me 3 times. Unthinkable. Absolutely unthinkable for Peter that such should be the case, that he would ever deny the Lord. He's confessed him on many occasions. And he's always been willing to do that, to step up and confess the Lord. And what do you mean right now? Before the rooster crows, before dawn comes, you will have denied me 3 times. No, Peter knew Peter, or at least he thought he did. And Peter had stepped up on so many other occasions when the other apostles did not. And Peter knew that he was the one that had the faith, even if the other 11 or whatever didn't want to follow him, that Jesus should know that Peter would follow him wherever he was going. I mean, he was the one that when Jesus was walking on water toward them, you remember? When the storm was going on, Jesus came walking, and the disciples thought it was a ghost, and so Jesus said, don't be afraid, it's me, I'm just heading that way, I'll be there in just a minute. And Peter said, Lord, if it be thou, bid me come to thee on the water. And Jesus said, well, all right, well, just come on. And Peter was the one, not James or John or Philip or Andrew or any of these other guys, that crawled over the edge of the boat and got down on the water and walked to the Lord. Peter did that. Peter was known for stepping forward when the time came for stepping forward. When they come to get Jesus later that night, there in the Garden of Gethsemane. And they came to arrest him, and Jesus asked them when they got there, and they were all together. Jesus wasn't separated from the others at this time, by this time. Said, who are you looking for? And they said, we're looking for Jesus of Nazareth. And Jesus said, that's me. I am he. And they were going to take Jesus and stepping forward to do that. What did Peter do? You think he was aiming for the ear? I kind of doubt that he was aiming for the ear either. The only way you're going to be able to whack off an ear is if you're coming with a sword straight down. Looks to me like he's trying to split the guy's head open and just missed and got just his ear. It was Peter. Out of the 2 swords, Peter had one of them, and he's going to show Jesus that he meant exactly what he said, that I'll follow you even in death, and I'll die for you right now. I mean, Peter was obviously going to be outnumbered, and just one sword against all these soldiers that had come, along with some of the rabble, to arrest Jesus and step forward. But then, and what did Jesus do? Did Jesus say, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant"? Oh, he rebuked him, didn't he? Jesus said, "Peter, Peter, Peter, you know what? What in the world are you thinking?" And Jesus picked up the guy's ear, bloody mess on the ground, and healed the guy. And he said to Peter, "You know, Peter, you need to understand this. Those that live by the sword will what? Will die by that by which they lived." Yes, Lord.
I remember reading that Jesus healed the ear, but I don't remember reading that he put it back on.
Okay. What do y'all think he did? Just left the big scar there,
No,
ugly, no ear?
It came back to normal.
Oh, okay. And he may have done it that way. He may not have picked up the ear and put it back on. I don't know. That was my assumption.
Well, that's what I'd always assumed, but I read something just within the last couple of weeks, and it struck me that it just said he healed his ear, and always before, like you said, I thought he put it back on, but it didn't say that, so.
Okay.
But I never researched it to see if any of the Gospels said it different.
Yeah. And I don't know. You know, he certainly could have done it whichever way he wanted. He could materialize stuff that wasn't there. It wouldn't have been any trouble for him to do that when guys had withered limbs and things like that. You know, he fixed them all up back normal without any trouble at all. So however he did it, he did it. And the point that was made with Peter was he was out of line. This was not what Jesus wanted from Peter when this arrest time came. And so it was hard for Peter to fathom that he was now stepping up and doing what he said he would do. And Jesus is getting on his case and telling him to put his sword away. And so he doesn't know how to respond now. Yes, Lord?
Wasn't the supper when Jesus asked them if they had, how many swords they had?
Yeah. And he said, "We got two." And,
Yeah, and why?
yeah, why did Jesus?
I never could put that in my mind, why he would make that statement and then
Yeah, and then do
rebuke
that.
Peter because he used to know.
Mark's got an answer for us. Mark, what's the deal with all that sword stuff?
Well, while he was praying, he wanted to pray.
Mhm.
He asked him to stay away. He wanted to be guarded to make sure he got that prayer done.
Mhm.
But after he had prayed, there's no need for the swords to be burned.
After he prayed what?
After he had prayed,
Uh-huh.
they didn't need the sword.
Oh, didn't need it? Okay. The prayer took care of everything in the sword more than what the sword could take care of.
He wanted them to be there, and he asked them to stay away.
Mhm.
Stand guard with their swords,
Mhm.
so that he could pray, right?
Yeah. And he got to do the praying, and right, didn't need the swords. You know, if well, what was it he told Peter that? Are you not aware? Wasn't it Peter the one he said that he could call 10,000 angels? Yeah, 10 legions of angels. If that was what was needed to handle this situation, but that's not what was needed. Peter again wasn't aware of what was going on because he's a little child. And there's things he doesn't understand yet that he will understand later, but he's not equipped at this point in time to understand that Jesus' death is absolutely essential and is according to the purpose and the plan of God. So he said this to Peter, you know, "You're going to deny me 3 times. Peter, he couldn't imagine doing that. We may not know anyone else, but we know ourselves. And knowing ourselves as we know ourselves, we think we know what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. And some things you just can't see yourself ever doing. You just wouldn't ever do that. And other things, perhaps you might do something like along that line, but there are some things you just would not do. You would die before you did those things. And this is what Peter regarded himself as. He would never forsake the Lord, run away from the Lord, deny the Lord. He would never, it's unthinkable to Peter that this could ever be the case. And he thinks Jesus, certainly for the first time during the whole course of his ministry, is wrong. He'll stick with him to the end. So Peter, like the others, does run away there in the garden after Jesus rebuked him for all of that. He's confused and doesn't know what to do. If he doesn't want me to defend him, what does he want me to do? And so he just ran away when the others ran away. But he followed, from a distance. Came on back to the courtyard of Annas and Caiaphas and presented himself there at the gate. We're familiar with what happened from that point in time, where the environment was there that led to his denying the Lord. Heard one guy preach a sermon called Warming by the Devil's Fireside. And that what Peter had done was to walk into the devil's fireside to warm himself up, and the devil had his way with him. And he did. Both of those things were true. Anything further through chapter 13 before we're ready to begin looking at chapter 14? All right, so Jesus is still in conversation here with the apostles. And he says this to them next, because what he's been saying to them has been very troubling, obviously. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. Hearts are easy things to trouble. We get worried about a lot of stuff. And what Jesus was saying to them was very worrisome, troubling to them. And the answer, the solution to the trouble is our faith. What in the world is our faith supposed to do if it is not supposed to sustain us during times of trouble? When we don't understand maybe everything that's been said or everything that's going on, then our faith carries us through that time. So Jesus says, here's the answer to troubled hearts. You believe in God, believe also in me. It's a choice that we make. He uses the first word in the verse, let. He said, let not your heart be troubled. So it's a choice. Don't allow this to happen. If I let it happen, then I've allowed it to happen. Don't let it happen. And we have choices in things. We allow a lot of things to happen that we wish didn't happen, but we allow them to happen anyway because we get caught up in circumstances and situations and brings about grief and difficulty. Troubling. How are you going to handle things that trouble you? A lot of things can trouble you. Back when we worked for a living, before we all retired, Clinton's still working for a living. Mark's still working. But being late for work, troubling. You going to worry about that? Spill food all over yourself at lunchtime. Well, let's worry about that. The 49ers do not win the Super Bowl. Let's worry about that. I don't get to hear Usher at halftime. I would not be worried about that. I don't know who Usher is, but I just know he's supposed to be singing or doing something, jumping around at halftime.
He works at the movies.
Do what now?
He works at the movies.
Oh. Yeah, he gets paid well for it, too. But anyway, how we deal with those situations. Some of them are just nuisances. How much do we let those little things that we call them bother us? Or if it's a bigger thing, how much do we let it bother us? We cannot help but be troubled by circumstances. You can say all you want to about my faith is so great it doesn't bother me, I'll not worry about it, it'll be okay. You can say all those things you want to say and then go home and still not sleep at night. So we'll talk some more about that next Wednesday night. Thank you for being here for our Bible class.